Across India, climate risks are no longer distance projections. They are already reshaping rural livelihoods. We are staring at losses of 25 to 30% in coming decade, reducing farmer income by 40%. For an agrarian economy like India, this is a grave danger to lives, to livelihoods, national economy, and national security. To solve this big problem, an initiative has been taken by NABARD called Building National Climate Stack.
The solutions to India's problem financially will come from India. What is required is ideas.
We have Mr. Sanjeev Rohela, CGM NABARD here, who is leading a grand innovation challenge to build National Climate Stack. Essentially, it's a digital public infrastructure which will bring climate intelligence together to mobilize India's research and innovation ecosystem. Mr. Rohela, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure to be here with you, Jagjit. It's always a pleasure to meet you.
So for our audience, if you could just walk us through your journey in NABARD and the portfolio you handle today.
So, in NABARD, we don't get to specialize or work in any one department. I have been fairly lucky in the sense that I've been a part of a lot of new developments in the bank. I had a chance to be the first CEO of NAB Foundation, a Section 8 company of NABARD. And then I had a chance to work on setting up NABARD's data warehouse. And now I'm the national head for climate finance, climate change, a responsibility which comes with looking at the whole climate narrative from the perspective of both development and credit. So it's been a very happy journey, a lot of education on the way, a lot of opportunities to learn and be of help to the society,
Thank you. It seems you've been NABARD man of the hour. Wherever there has been an important challenge or initiative, they have put you in charge of this. And I'm glad now you're taking on this challenge of solving for climate risk. So to begin with, how would you describe the scale of climate risk that rural India is facing today? What trends you're seeing on the ground, which are most concerning to farmers and rural livelihoods from a premier bank perspective?
See, I think this is a question which cannot be answered in a linear format. The climate risk has to be seen from the perspective of various angles. So there is the angle of population at risk, for instance. 65% of the Indian population is rural, which is the most vulnerable. Then there is the angle of the Indian farmer. The Indian farmer who is typically small, the smaller, the more vulnerable. And they have either no understanding of what's happening around them on the climate front. If they have, then they do not have the means to react to that. The answer could be as simple as a micro irrigation. Answer could be a simple solar powered drying unit for him to sell it on the later date. The answer could be a small road which connects him to the village. Then there's a gender angle, Jagjit. 65% of the farmer workforce today is women. And whether it is religion or politics or agriculture, women are going to be the worst impacted when climate change comes home. They're the worst impacted. And then there is the angle of, climate finance. Are we ready to finance this? Do we understand what is involved? So if you ask me what are the climate risks facing this country, they've got a whole spectrum of issues are involved over here.
I couldn't agree more. I'm a trained agri-economist with half of my family from Punjab, smallholder farmers, and they attest to what you're suggesting. And when I go back to them in the village and say, you do X, Y, Z, they say, don't give us gyan, give us solutions and tell us how best we do. I think more important point you mentioned here is the impact on women and girls, disproportionate impact. And our Dalberg research suggests that now climate impacts are going to overtake patriarchy as the number one cause of disproportionate impact on women in terms of increasing their suffering, day-to-day suffering. And that's really alarming unless we internalize in the solutions we provide. And that brings me to a subset of the problem, which is the climate and weather data, and how we translate that into actionable insights. From your perspective and this long career on these issues from both assessing and providing financing and solutions. What are the bigger gaps you see in India's climate intelligence ecosystem today?
That's a layered question, actually. If you ask me, I think in the last 60, 65 years, we have as a nation invested in climate. There's no denying that. Yes, we have been behind the curve, for sure. We've not had the kind of investment in this sector. But we have an ISRO, we have IMD, we have regional level bodies, we have institutions covering mapping the climate change on the marine life, river run life. There are a lot of institutions doing a lot of analysis of climate data for the country. The challenges, and has always been the an impediment in this country where institutions don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
In fact, if you remember, this conversation started with us having a cup of coffee in Jakarta.
Yes.
Where you said, can't we have a solution for the farmer?
Yes.
It was a very basic question, right?
Yes, yes.
We were discussing.
I remember that.
Yeah, we were discussing the hordes of data everywhere. But for the farmer, you said, can you answer this question if a farmer is asking, should I do this crop 3 months from now?
Yes.
And I said, well, I didn't have the answer. Neither you had the answer. Yeah. And you are a trained agri-economist. Yes. You know this sector more than I do. So we have data for the next 4 days for weather advisories available. Yes. We have data for the next 50 years.
Yes.
I know for a fact that if Punjab continues on the journey it is on right now, wheat, rice are going to go down by 50% or so.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah.
But what about the next 8 to 10 years?
Yes.
That's when the bank needs to know if I give him a loan for a hand pump, a minor irrigation, a dairy unit, goat keeping, will he have the resources to repay it in 7, 8, 9 years?
Yeah.
That's a huge hole in the sky for the climate data. So, in a line, if you ask me, there is lots of data. It was there, it continues to be there. We continue to generate very good data.
Yeah.
But these data streams do not interact with each other. They don't talk to each other. And when they do, they don't talk from the farmer's perspective.
Yeah. So climate risk is a combination of climate hazard, your exposure and vulnerability to that hazard. A combination of that would define your climate risk. For most of the models started with IPCC, NOAA, UK Met Office, IMD and others, they are very good at projecting 2050 and 2100 range. What are the impacts? But as you rightly said, as IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, will define the near term 10 to 15 years, we don't have a good handle on multi-hazard projection on the single asset at a longitude or latitude unit, which makes more sense for farmers, which makes more sense for a seed producing company, for a fertilizer company and financiers like yours. Where would these hazards go? How would they impact their severity and all that? I think that is the problem statement which needs to be tackled. Could you unpack what a climate stack could look like?
Okay. Let me give you a little perspective on this. My last role, I was the CGM, Chief General Manager in charge. He was in charge of data management. And our chairman, Dr. Shaji, he was wedded to the idea of data being central to decision making. The brief given to me by him was bring data systems into the bank, democratize data. I internalized that and I thought of how do I take it outside NABARD. And that's when I read about DICRA, Data in Climate Resilient Agriculture, DICRA, which was a UNDP Labs initiative. The UNDP Labs does something very brilliant. They come to the local economy, which they did in India. They came and they found that climate data was something which needed a lot of work, focus on. And then they brought in scientists from the world community and they developed this basic format of climate data. And it was a website basically, which was a digital public good. So I went there, I had an MOU with UNDP, and the overarching goal of UNDP through UNDP Labs was to get out. After setting the system, they need to move out. They don't want to be parenting this thing forever. They want the local body to pick up. And for them, it was NABARD. Because we are a development financial institution, we are not oriented from profit perspective, and we believe in DPI. So, digital public infrastructure. And that's how DICRA landed in NABARD. it was around 3 states data, now it's 14 states. That is how it started for NABARD. We are trying to bring in climate data from the farmer's perspective. We want to bring disparate, distinct data sets in the country onto one platform. We want them to talk to each other in an interoperable API framework. And we will love to have a layer of OpenAI on top of that, which allows a farmer to ask a question and get an answer which he wants to hear. And not some fancy table or map of India with yellow, blue, green, red dots, which he does not understand.
Indeed. No, it's high time that we take the DPI experience and success we have and bring it to climate and agriculture. And it's, again, heartening to see that you are evolving DICRA from a DPG to climate stack, which would be a DPI, where many other sectors and solution providers could build their solutions out of this DPI as an infrastructure. That brings me to the launch, the recent launch of the National Climate Stack Innovation Challenge. Can you shed some light what motivated NABARD to excite the ecosystem of universities, startups, and financiers to come up with the solutions?
See, OpenAI has really changed the way we look at the word possibility.
Indeed.
You know?
Indeed.
It has. So it was impossible for you and me to imagine 4 years ago that you could imagine a world in which all this data was sitting together and you could have a layer on top and a farmer is asking questions. It was impossible, right?
Indeed.
So if you ask me, that vision which we shared and the technology which we have today and the phenomenal work which the government of India has done through fintech, the simple addition of a Aadhaar ID, a phone, giving birth to a Jan Dhan account, and then these 3 things allowing the whole world to talk to this farmer, whether insurance or selling fertilizers or Amazon, whatever, right? So that was the driving force for us in NABARD. Can we leverage technology to create the same kind of a new reality for the Indian farmer from the climate data perspective?
So give us a sense of what kind of innovations and solutions you are expecting you're going to receive from the startup ecosystem.
So first is that we should move from a simple digital public good to digital public infrastructure. So DICRA today is a DPG. We want it to become infrastructure, which is like an 8-lane highway. A good is something which you consume and go, but a DPI is where magic happens, where startups start coming inside and plugging in, pulling in data. Imagine banks using that data. Imagine if you are a collector sitting in Nagpur and you want to look at where will the road be a sensible idea. If you're in Maharashtra, you're talking about merging rivers. What kind of data do you need? And imagine digital public infrastructure from NABARD side enables all these players to do whatever they want to do. Second thing, Jagjit, I'm really hoping to have is there are some, I'm wrong with this figure perhaps, but nearly 600 plus startups in the climate data space. I didn't know that in this country. There are bright minds from young people from IITs and they have a vision about using it to be of service to the nation and farmers and make money doing that. Third thing is, of course, we will love to see this competition enabling us to deliver DICRA as a single source of truth for data.
Yes.
That's very important. So you have ISRO data, which we respect ISRO. ISRO's data. IMD has one data. State governments have their own data, but we need to perhaps bring them together and do some kind of analytics to work out averages, weighted averages, something which makes it the single source of truth.
True.
That is something which will be a huge step forward, which can be used by Niti Aayog, can be used by a planning department of a state government, can be used by NABARD, can be used by Dalberg, can be used by any startups. Local solution.
Yes.
Which is where the whole conversation started from. That is something which is going to make climate data, something which is relevant and useful to the farmer. So I'm looking at all the solutions from DICRA.
And in the past decade, we've seen startup ecosystem in India, whether it's the space tech, geospatial, agri-tech, fintech, it's just exploding. My hope is that we will see one unicorn coming out of a digital climate stack, providing not just solutions for India, but for whole global South. Yeah. This is a problem even in global North. And in our field, we have scanned the world in terms of who are the best providers of such climate risk information. For the time horizon, we are talking 10, 15 years, and there are not many players. So this is a fantastic opportunity for young entrepreneurs.
Let me add to that. On Monday, we are having the Fiji Development Bank. Mm-hmm. Guess what they're discussing? We are already discussing the possibility of providing data from DICRA to Fiji Islands. And what makes it possible is technology.
Indeed.
I'm saying these things were not possible earlier.
Yeah.
So the statement, the time which we have spent, we can share with the other global South. Yeah.
Indeed. I was talking to folks in Ministry of External Affairs, and they said, we have this India-Africa Forum Summit coming in May, and it would be important to showcase these solutions which benefit our farmers, fellow farmers, and citizenry in Africa. Learning from Indian examples, not just DPI, but bringing these critical areas, ag and climate together. So, let's take a bit of a fast forward on this. If you have to define, you have to go to your chairman and say, so this is how I'm going to measure the success of this journey we are on. Give us your ambition on that.
If I can tell him we are able to deliver a solution for a 2x3, 4x5, 5x5 square kilometer solution, mm-hmm. if we are able to give a platform which can be used by Niti Aayog. Mm-hmm. So if you are able to earn the interest of and respect of all these stakeholders, I think we would have really covered some distance over here.
Any closing words, sir, from your end as we close this podcast?
The solutions to India's problem financially will come from India. Mm-hmm. They cannot come from outside. Nobody outside India has the financial wit today to answer our problems. There's enough and more domestic liquidity in the market. What is required is ideas.
Definitely.
A few good people coming together to make a difference, as the cliche goes,
Definitely.
That's what it's about.
Definitely. Well, thank you very much, and I hope our listeners get inspired and provide solutions in the Innovation Challenge, and hopefully some of them will win the prize. And for our viewers and listeners, let me kind of bring the timeline to your attention. The challenge was launched at Bharat Climate Forum. Application portal opened on 6th of March. Application portal closes on 30th of March. The challenge will run for the next 4 months. We will have a technical advisory committee and a jury to evaluate. And then, most importantly, awards will be given on 12th of July, which is NABARD's Foundation Day, with prize money total of 30 lakh INR for the first 3 winners. But I think there is an implicit commitment from the management to seed the solution so that they can go with the full journey of development and actually bringing the roots of the solution to the larger community, as we talked here, policymakers, farmers, financiers, and others.